I'm literally in what used to be a war zone here in Ukraine.
So the shockwave was so huge that I had this illusion that all of my teeth fell off.
I personally, I see no end to this war at this point.
No, sirens are going off. I am here in the country of Ukraine inside the city of Kyiv, and today I'm going to be showing you guys the reality of the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. In February of 2022, Vladimir Putin and the Russians invaded Ukraine, trying to overthrow the capital of Kyiv. And since then, the war has been nonstop as hundreds of thousands of people have died and billions of dollars have been spent. And not just billions of dollars from Ukraine and Russia, however, the United States has also spent over $170 billion giving aid and supplies to the country of Ukraine to support them. And for the next 72 hours, I'll be going around Ukraine to show you what is going on with this ongoing war. I'll be visiting areas that have been bombed and cities and villages that the Russians once invaded, speaking with the locals and looking into where the 175 billion US tax dollars have been spent. This is an inside look that very few outsiders of Ukraine have ever given nor risked their life to film. While in Ukraine, I gained a deep appreciation for the fragility of life and the heart and the determination of the Ukrainians to finish and end this war. And just to get here inside the country of Ukraine, it was not easy. I started off in Poland at a bus stop, and I took a 19-hour-long bus ride into the city of Kyiv, and now I am standing outside of this hospital. If you guys enjoy what I'm doing here on this channel, please give this video a like and consider subscribing to the channel. And now I'm going to show you guys the reality of this war, as I'm going to be starting here at this hospital that was recently bombed by the Russians. So a missile attack was launched on this hospital and killed over 30 people, and 100 people were injured, and the exterior, the tiles that held this building together, is now obviously destroyed from this missile attack that happened. All the windows are boarded up. This lady was here when the missile hit, and what was it like when the missile hit here at the hospital?
Був звичайний день, звичайно, почали роботу, здається, я точно й не пам'ятаю. Спочатку пролунала тривога, потім звуки ППО спрацювали, і ми почали з завідуючою своїх колег говорити, потрібно йти в укриття, але вже не встигли в укриття вийти. Вийшли тільки лише наш колектив, встиг вийти на коридор, і це добре, що вийшли хоча б на коридор, тому що в нашому відділення дуже лабораторія онкогематологічних досліджень постраждала.
And what would be your message to the rest of the world that is seeing this war from the outside as it has been going on for so long? What is the reality of the Ukraine-Russian war?
Я б хотіла, щоб світ не лише бачив і говорив про це, але щось і робив для цього, щоб зупинити агресора, щоб зупинити цю війну, щоб не гинули діти, не гинули наші близькі, рідні, щоб не руйнувались наші міста, села, щоб на нашій землі не танки їздили, а вибачте, вже почалися жнива, і краще б ми збирали хліб на своїй землі, а не міни. Вибачте.
And now we're going to head into the hospital to see what it looks like from the inside. The walls are destroyed. The ceilings have been also detached. Kind of feels like a horror scene right here. Inside this hospital, a lot of the doors are completely blown out. All the way from the 7th floor, the windows and the doors were blown out. And a lot of these children, when the bombing went off, they had IVs in their system, so they couldn't take them out underneath a shelter, so they had to bring them in here where they were farther away from the windows, because as you guys saw from outside, all the windows completely exploded. And as I'm talking and going around this building, I'm understanding the power of just one missile. I can't even imagine what it'd be like to have 2, 3, 4, 5 missiles hit a building that you're at or a building near you, because it literally just explodes everything, and the shock waves destroy the windows and the outside and the interiors of everything. Even though this hospital was bombed just a few weeks ago, it is still in operation, and there are still hardworking doctors and nurses that are running this hospital, as there are still kids that need to be cured and treated here inside these hospitals. This is the main hospital here in Kyiv. It's the main hospital for children in Kyiv, in Russia, for some reason decided to bomb it. I then went to meet with a man whose apartment was next to a building that was bombed 5 times by the Russians. What happened when this building was bombed?
5 missiles came within 30 seconds.
5 missiles in 30 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're less than 100 meters away from the building.
Exactly.
And what kind of impact did you guys feel here inside your apartment?
Like the whole building was shaking, man.
Did your guys' windows explode?
Yeah. This whole window went off. This one.
And why does Russia want to keep bombing this building?
Man, No idea. You tell me. I don't know.
What other effects could you guys feel from inside the home?
I mean, like, it was crazy, man. Like, when you feel like the whole building is shaking, you just stop thinking about, like, I don't know, anything. Because you just feel a kind of I should survive, and that's it.
And how do you guys feel about the Russians here in Ukraine?
We're Ukrainian, and like we stay here. I know a number of people who left Ukraine, but we're still here, and we keep doing our things, and like, I don't know, man. Like, just keep the strength to somehow live, and yeah, and we do believe in victory, because those f***ers would like. So just like we're connected, together we stand and never fall.
Mm-hmm.
That's the point.
What would you say the Ukrainian spirit is with the war?
Just be Ukrainians, be brave Ukraine, and like continue doing what you're doing, and try as much as you can just to support our country and stop this war.
I don't really know how to describe what I'm seeing right now, just because it is just so real to actually see firsthand versus not just seeing it on a TV screen and seeing it firsthand and then talking to him, seeing him get so emotional. Like, it really does hit you hard that this war is not just a war you see in the news. It's not like a movie. A lot of times when you see stuff on the news, you get desensitized to it. But when you come to a spot like this, you really see the effects, and you see people's lives that are being destroyed and people are dying every single day. But when you don't see it firsthand, it's hard to even comprehend what's actually going on. This is the apartment complex right here, and this is all the debris from what fell from the missile attack. So you've been through a bombing yourself, correct?
Yeah, several times.
And what is the first reaction when you typically get bombed?
You feel this energy of the explosion like a pressure, like you feel a pressure wave hitting your body. Once I was near the really big explosion of Iskander missile. It's the warhead itself weighs half a ton. So the shock wave was so huge that I had this illusion that all of my teeth fell off. So I had to touch my own teeth to make sure they're still inside, because the pressure wave was so big that I felt they all went inside of me.
And while we're walking on the street, this building right behind us right now, all the windows are completely blown out.
Yeah, that's because of the pressure. The pressure of the explosion, the air wave, it breaks the windows inside. The debris, everything inside of that apartment, when explosion comes, turns into bullets, because all the heavy stuff, all the metal stuff gets airborne with a tremendous speed. So it penetrates, like everything around you becomes a bullet. So if you're in the way of that bullet, you're basically dead on spot.
I mean, this building right here, it looks like it's about 6 stories high. Every single window is completely blown out. And how much does a missile weigh?
Well, it's not about the weight of the missile itself, it's about the warhead. The warhead is the thing that is in the very tip of the missile, and it does the job. Mm-hmm. So basically the rest of the missile is like engine, navigation system, fuel, but it's not as explosive as the warhead itself.
And how much does the warhead weigh?
Usually they use warheads that are half a ton, so it's like 1,000 pounds.
And as my friend was saying, each one of those missiles, the warheads on the missiles weigh a half a ton. So 5 missiles, that's 5,000 pounds. That impact is ginormous, and as you can tell, it did not just destroy one building, it destroyed all the buildings around it. Even the McDonald's just on the corner, windows were blown out as well, with this building right here, where all the windows have been blown out on the backside of the building. It's a little bit weird, everybody is just walking around, kind of, and it's just like almost normal here.
Relax, American, it's okay, you'll be fine.
Like, as I'm here in Kyiv, do I need to worry about bombings or missiles?
Well, not that much, because Kyiv has one of the best air defenses in the country. Like, for example, cities like Kharkiv or Zaporizhia, that's where you really need to stay low, but nobody does, anyway. Because everybody's, it's like 2.5 years, everybody's used to it.
And later in this video, I'll be visiting one of the areas where the Russians initially invaded, and you can see the real impacts in the trenches where the soldiers fought. In general, as a man here inside Ukraine, you cannot leave the country, correct?
In most cases, no. Like, you have to be father of 3 children, at least, or you have to be a single father, like mother is dead or missing or in jail.
In order to leave the country.
Then you can leave, like no questions asked.
Say the Ukrainian military would call you tomorrow, would you have to go to war?
Probably so. Like, yeah, I'll have to go through the training first. It usually takes around a month, but then yeah, like you have to go to war.
And so every day you have that worry that you could potentially go to war.
Try not to think about it.
Would you say most people just try not to think about it?
No, I mean, it's not that bad. It's not like every military position is like fighting and gunfire. So you can be basically a truck driver, you can be a medic, you can be, electronic warfare, which has like a huge branch in Ukrainian army because that's a new medium of the war. You can do a lot of stuff. If you play it smart, you don't have to be in a trench with a machine gun.
Throughout the city of Kyiv, you can find billboards just like this where they are soliciting 2 young men as they can become FPV pilots if they join the armed forces here inside Ukraine. My friend has brought me to an area where there are thousands upon thousands of Ukrainian flags. And what do these flags represent?
Each flag represents a dead soldier. Like, if you pay attention, each flag has a name and a date when person demised.
So each one of these flags represents a soldier that went to war and that has died.
Yes, correct.
And do a lot of the people here in Ukraine, do they think they're fighting like a useless war that's not going to stop, or?
No. Nobody thinks that. The war is not like unprovoked. We know what we're fighting for. They're like, I mean, after Bucha, after a massacre in Bucha, we all know what we're fighting for, so there's nothing like that.
Yeah, for the people that don't know exactly what you guys are fighting for, what are you guys fighting for here in Ukraine?
Basically our survival. We're fighting for our survival because if you've seen the massacres that happened all over Kyiv district and Kharkiv, mass graves, civilians, women, children buried in the ground, that's exactly what's going to happen if Russia comes here. The mass graves will be here. At a small town of Bucha itself, the mass graves, each one of them had like thousands of civilians.
So you talk about Bucha, and Bucha is a city here inside Ukraine?
In nearby Kyiv. It's like a small town, like a satellite village nearby Kyiv. Population like several tens of thousands, and like the amount of bodies taken from the ground after Russia retreated. It was like eye-watering. I don't remember the exact digits, but like it was harmless people, like elderly people, children.
Why do you think Russia has no mercy with this war?
Well, the propaganda machine that Putin started, so the project of invading to Ukraine started probably in early 2000s. So they were preparing this shit for like 20 years. They were really good at 2 things, murdering civilians and propaganda.
When you say propaganda, is that just like advertisement that they put inside their country, or is that banners, stuff they teach in school?
It's everything. It's everything. The freedom of speech in Russia is basically non-existent. They use television. They use social network.
So inside Russia, do they think the Ukrainians are on the wrong side?
Of course they do. But the thing is, like, being wrong with what? Being wrong with not being Russia.
And Russia just wants this land. They just want Ukraine.
They want more than that. They want our people so that they can grab the remains of the people and use them to fight NATO. So if Ukraine is not fighting Russia, it's going to fight NATO under the Russian rule.
So if Russia wins the war and they take over Ukraine, and then they convert all the people here in Ukraine to then take on NATO, which would mean take
Latvia, Lithuania, those countries, that's where Ukrainians are going to be fighting against NATO.
And then from there they will take in, then that's where you can see a potential World War III start.
Man, it's already started. What do you mean, potential? It's already started, it's here.
And ma'am, do one of these flags represent one of your sons here?
Так, тут є маленькі 2 прапорчики, бо там мій син і його друзі.
And how old was your son when he got sent off to war?
22 повних.
If your son were here today, what do you think his message would be to the Ukrainian people and the people of the world to understand what is happening here with this war?
Бережіть Україну. Він любив Україну, любив життя. Любіть життя, поважайте один одного і бережіть один одного.
What do you think the final result will be with this war? When do you think it will stop?
Тільки перемога. Заради цих всіх хлопців. бо тут лежать самі найкращі хлопці. Самий світ нації, який хотів жити, відбудовувати, робити щось для нашої України. А його нема, от бачите, і це не всі хлопці. Це не всі хлопці тут. Це тільки маленька частинка. Мій син хотів дуже жити. Він дуже любив життя.
When you speak with a woman like this, it makes you realize just how this war is affecting so many people. And if you just walk around the city of Kyiv, it is very interesting because it feels so normal in many ways. People seem to be living as if a war wasn't even happening inside the country. The streets were clean, people were at bars, restaurants were open, and life seemed to be somewhat normal compared to what I was expecting to see. And I wanted to ask a few of the people here about how their lives have changed since the war started. Since the war has begun here in Ukraine, how has your daily life changed?
Well, I guess I feel more depressed. It's the third year that we are in this war already. I see no end to this war at this point.
How's your guys' life changed?
I've become more paranoid, to be honest. The infrastructure damage and the constant blackouts are mildly annoying, I would say.
And what about you?
The psychological state of my family is not slightly, but really, damaged.
And living here in Kyiv, do you fear a missile attack happening here in your home?
Yeah, when there is a missile attack, you never know where the missiles will land. So I don't usually go to bomb shelters because if I were to do so, I'd be doing that my whole day because sometimes we have like 5, 6, even more air alerts.
And later that night when I went to bed, I woke up in the middle of the night to this. All right, it's 3:30 in the morning right now, and now sirens are going off. I don't know exactly what this means, but I do know that when sirens go off, that is not good. Okay, now the sirens are going off on another part of the city. I really don't know what's going on, but I'm just gonna close my eyes and go to bed because there's really nothing I can do. I'm stuck inside this apartment right now. Last night I woke up to sirens at 3:30 in the morning, and now I'm here with my guide for the day. And does that happen every single day, or is that typical to wake up in the middle of the night to sirens going off? Because I literally woke up and I was like, well, I don't know where to go, so I'm gonna go back to bed and I hope I wake up.
Yeah, it's quite a typical thing, but it doesn't usually happen like every single day. But we had some months, say last May, when it was every single day, and yeah, it was hard to sleep.
And when those sirens go off, it means like missiles are coming into the city, correct?
Yeah, or there's a possibility they will come,
And here in Kyiv, it's not rare to just be driving and then you see a building that has been bombed. Why do you think Russia still just bombs random buildings at will here inside Ukraine?
To kill more Ukrainians and to destroy our identity. And for them, I guess the less Ukrainians, the better, because the less Ukrainians fight for their freedom, the better. More chance they will win.
Do you think it's somewhat pointless, the fact that Russia keeps trying to get here into Ukraine?
It's not definitely a pointless war, right? But it's pointless to keep bombing our buildings because we will not change our mind and stop fighting just because we lost another building with people. Of course, it's sad, but it's not going to work.
What will happen if Ukraine stops receiving aid from other countries and other countries say, we're not going to keep funding Ukraine, we're not going to keep doing anything? What will happen to Ukraine?
We will keep fighting with, forks and spoons, something like that. We will all go and fight just because we don't want to live under Russian regime. And why should we?
Would you guys rather live underneath Russian regime or die for freedom?
We will definitely die for freedom because what's the point of living under Russian regime?
So people would rather fight for their freedom and die than live underneath the regime of a country like Russia?
Absolutely. People would rather die. Of course, there are some people who remember Soviet Union and stuff like that, but it's different now. And all these people right now change their mind about Soviet past. They understand now that Ukrainian identity was pushed away and they couldn't
think, and they couldn't feel any freedom that they feel right now. So if they stop giving us weapons and stuff like that, some people will definitely leave the country, but those who will stay, they will fight until the end.
I've shown the impact of these bombs here inside Ukraine quite a bit in this video, but I'm still amazed just by how many buildings and how many lives have been affected by these bombings. And if you look at this building right here, obviously completely destroyed. And if you look at this Samsung building right here, the windows are also blown out. Then what happens to people when a bombing like this happens? Where do they get moved to, or what happens with their life?
So there is a process. Government usually offers them a temporary housing, and then they usually offer compensation, either in money or in the apartment. They provide the apartment for people to live in.
And we have been driving around here, and you do see a lot of apartment complexes being built. And so will that be some of the buildings where these people get moved into?
Maybe. I think so. Why not?
And what do you think happens with all the money that these other countries are giving to Ukraine?
Well, first of all, it's some military aid. A lot of them go to economical losses. A lot of the money go to humanitarian needs, definitely. I think maybe even when people are losing their apartments because of the shellings, maybe those money from the Western partners go to those people who lost their home.
Since the Russian invasion began in 2022, the United States has given over $175 billion to Ukraine in aid and financial support, and has provided them more military equipment than any other country. And rightfully so, many people speculate where this money goes and wonder why their hard-earned tax dollars are going to a country they do not live in. The money and aid is designed to go towards three things: military, budget support, and humanitarian support. One thing I did notice that was a bit odd was that all around the perimeter of Kyiv, new apartments were being built everywhere, making me wonder if US tax dollars are being spent on rebuilding and building up new infrastructure in Ukraine, while currently in the United States, rent and home prices are at all-time highs, and we currently have our own housing crisis in the United States currently. And now, this is all speculation, but you never know these days. We left Kyiv and we went to some of the small villages where Russia first launched their attack on Ukraine when they first started their invasion in 2022. Was Russia's goal to come into these small villages, invade them, and then eventually make their way into Kyiv? To slowly progress into Kyiv that way, by taking over these small villages?
Yeah, because it's the only way for them to come from that side they were coming from. So if they could take this village, they could have easily gone to Kyiv.
It legit was man-to-man combat inside of these trenches right here. And right there's a shoe. I don't know if it's a soldier shoe or if it's just a shoe that's got left behind somehow. However, you can see the effects of the war here, as right here in this spot is either where Russians tried to fight to take over Ukraine, or where Ukrainians fought for their freedom here inside this country as they try to stop the regime of Vladimir Putin. It's so real to be standing in a spot where these people were fighting. As you can see, the sandbags are right here. This is one of the trenches that they used to fight. And we're walking around and you can see these villages that have been completely destroyed from this war. Were you here when the Russians came into the village?
Да. Ми були тут, знаходилися, зразу самольоти полетіли, вони летіли самольоти, як на парад. Впереді один, потім два, ззаді три, вони як на парад, вони сюди зібралися, я не знаю.
The next day at a rally, I met a lady who was actually held captive by the Russians in a town called Bucha. And how long were you held captive for?
16 days.
16 days. And during those 16 days, did you have contact with the outside world, or what was it like?
First I think 7 days we have a little contact, but after when Russia was near our house, they check every house with the guns. It was too much crazy. They read my phone, they read all my message. I don't know what they research, but I thank God they don't touch me, my family. But after they turn off all the mobile connection, light, electricity, everything was turned off. And after 6 months I have problems with post-traumatic syndrome, unfortunately, and in this moment it's another step because nobody understands you and it's difficult to explain people what are your feelings, so only time can return you to life.
That is the end of this video. If you enjoyed this video and you found it insightful, please give it a like and consider subscribing for more videos in the future. This is Nick, and I will be responding to your comments down below, and I'll see you next video.